Okay, we are on. Good evening. This is the Paramount City Council meeting of June the 2nd. This is a special notice. Public participation accessibility for the following meeting scheduled for June 2nd, 2020. The Paramount City Council, the successor agency for the Paramount Redevelopment Agency, and the Paramount Housing Authority, pursuant to Executive Order N-29-20, executed by the Governor of California on March 17th, 2020, and as a response to mitigating the spread of coronavirus known as COVID-19, the regular meeting of the City Council scheduled for Tuesday, June 2nd at 6 p.m. will allow members of the public to participate and address the City Council during the open session of the meeting via live stream and or teleconference only. And with that, I will now turn it over to Mayor Peggy Lemons to open our meeting. Mayor Lemons?
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. So the Paramount City Council meeting for June 2nd, 2020 is called to order. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Lori Gillen, followed by the invocation by Pastor Ken Korber of Emmanuel Reformed Church.
Will everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Place your right hand over your heart and recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes.
Okay. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you so much for the city of Paramount and for all that you've done here for decades. We are very humble and very grateful. I thank you for your mayor and vice mayor and our council members and our city manager. Thank you for your team. And I pray tonight you allow them to have humility and wisdom and teamwork together for your city. Thank you for the last while where the city fed 1,200 homes and then 2,200 homes, showing great love. I thank you for the city's care. We thank you for the protest the other day that became a safe protest and no one was harmed, and so we bless you and say thank you. I pray now wisdom for each of our council members and our mayor, and wisdom for the staff as they make decisions. We pray that we be humble and wise and teammates and work together. And we pray you bless the city, give wisdom in the area of budget and safety and next steps, make us wiser than we are. And I just pray, Lord, also for blessing in our country on everyone who's African American, that they would feel safe. We pray that looting would stop and there be safety through the land. We pray, Lord, that there be justice and peace for each person. We pray today protection for police officers and National Guard, and we pray that safety could come. Would you now bless our city? We pray your kingdom come, your will be done right here in Paramount as in heaven. In the name of Christ I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Ford.
God bless you.
May I now have roll call of council members?
Councilmember Aguayo,
I'm here.
Councilmember Guillen,
Here.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings, Councilmember Cuellar Stallings,
Here.
Vice Mayor Olmos,
I'm here.
Mayor Lemons.
Here. With that, we're going to move on to some presentations that we have. I'd like to say hello to everyone out there. Our public presentations are a usual part of our city council meetings. They are, however, have been suspended while we're holding these virtual meetings, but we feel very strongly that we need to resume the presentations tonight because the subject matter of these particular ones are important to our community. This process is obviously going to be a little different, but we can still honor these individuals in a meaningful way. So we're going to start with expressing our profound thanks and appreciation to all of the healthcare workers in Paramount. These are people who staff the medical centers, the clinics, the nursing homes, and the urgent care facilities in town. They have been on the front lines for COVID, and during the crisis, they are serving those that are sick and those that are at risk of contacting the virus. We depend on their strength, and we rely on their ability to deal with whatever comes at them, while demonstrating their compassion and understanding. In light of that, we would like to say that you are truly courageous and remarkable, and especially when you consider that what they do can put them and their loved ones at risk. So tonight, we'd like to honor everyone who works at the following locations in Paramount, and we will be sending a certificate of recognition to each of the facilities as well. We're going to start with Affinity Healthcare Center, Clínica Médica Hispana, Dusk to Dawn, Esperanza Medical, Kindred Hospital, LACA Medical Clinic, La Paz Geopsychiatric Center, Telecare, La Sagrada Familia, Para Latino Medical, Paramount Convalescent Hospital, Sacred Heart Family Medical Clinic, S&L Medical Center, Southern California Immediate Medical Center. Once again, thank you. Thanks to all of your employees at these facilities for taking care of our community during these extraordinary times. We're going to get these certificates for you, and know that we appreciate you, and we're here if you need us for any services whatsoever. We're at your disposal. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to education. The City Council has long held a yearly recognition of the students and teachers for Paramount Unified, and in keeping with that, tonight we are proclaiming June as Education Month. In addition, we are honoring the current recipients of the Paramount Education Partnership College Scholarships, and we will present the names of those being recognized on screen while they are read aloud. The top 25 Paramount High academic students class of 2020. These college-bound seniors will be featured on street banners along Boulevard of Scholars on Alondra between Downey and Paramount, starting with the valedictorian and the salutatorian. This year's valedictorian is Edward P. Casada, and the class salutatorian is Fatima Y. Larios. And at this time, I'd like to ask Vice Mayor Olmos if she will present the names of the remaining top 25 academic students.
Absolutely, it's my honor. Christopher Lopez, Juan Madrid, Angel Gutierrez, Austin Garcia, and Ashley Valencia. Alan Moreno, Jalen Martinez.
I don't know if I can be heard, but I have no audio from Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yeah, we're in the same situation, Mayor Lemons. Unless
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, we got you now.
The last name that we heard was Jaylene Martinez.
Okay, so it goes Augustin Angulo, Isabel Villalobos Arriaga, Cesar Gomez, Marisol Lozano, Erica Guerrero, Sherlisa Tang, Alexa Teles, Nathan Ceja, Eunice Selvas, Alexander Carlos, Isaiah Nuestro, Allison Aguirre, Andrew Flores, Damarius Rojas, Araz Villanueva, and Rebecca Mejia.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Olmos. And now we're going to have the top 5 Paramount High volunteers for the class of 2020. These students put in the most community service hours during their high school years, and they will have their banners at the Civic Center. Councilmember Aguayo will present the names of the top 5 volunteers.
Thank you, Mayor Lemons. Alejandra Quiroz, Karina Percastegui, Alejandra Rodriguez, Natalie Medina, Natalie M. Garcia Escobar.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Aguayo. Next, we'll have the top 5 Paramount High Momentum students, class of 2020. And these are students who overcame obstacles in their early years at school to become successful graduates. They will also have their banners at the Civic Center. And this list of recipients will be read by Councilmember Guillen.
Congratulations. Oscar Becerra, Isaiah Lopez, Cesar Moreno, Isaac Oriana, Jeffrey Torres Verdugo.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. And now the Teachers of the Year from every campus in the district. We thank them for their outstanding work, and we will ask Councilmember Cuellar Stallings to present the names of the teachers at the schools they represent.
Congratulations. Thank you, Peggy Lemons, Mayor Peggy Lemons. Charlene Landers, Early Childhood Education. Laura McCormick, Alondra. Jamaica Thrasher, Raymond Collins School. Kaylin M. Ono, Wesley Gaines. Janel Lennox, Hollydale School. Ryan Kirkpatrick, Lenora Jackson School. Lizandra Lopez, Jefferson. Rebecca Gutierrez, Mark Keppel. Monica Rosa Garcia, Abraham Lincoln. Adriana Portillo, Los Cerritos. Marilyn Equihua, Mokler School. Cecilia Gonzalez, Paramount Park. Maria Compensión Gomez, Theodore Roosevelt School. Aaron Osborne Peck, Howard Tenner. Mildred McGrath, Harry Wirtz. Barbara Bowman, Frank J. Zamboni. Jaime D. Ramirez, Paramount West Campus. Brittany Esnaria, Paramount High School. Wesson Cepeda, Odyssey Academy. Catherine A. Thomas, Buena Vista High School. Annette Whittaker, Paramount Adult School. These are all the Teachers of the Year, Paramount Unified School District.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Thank you.
And now I'm pleased to present the names of the PEP scholarship winners for this year. We have Zahara Carrera, who will be going to UC Santa Cruz. Christopher Duran will be attending UCLA. Alyssa Herrera will be attending UCLA. Fatima Larios will be going to UC Berkeley. Paola Arquez Hernandez will be going to Cal Poly. Crystal Aguiano to UC Santa Cruz. Augustin Angulo, UC Cruz. Johan de la Cruz to CSULB. Tara King Parker to USC. Daniel Cardenas, UC San Diego. Sarah Castro, UC Berkeley. Nathan Ceja, University of Washington, Seattle. Gustavo Contreras, UCLA. Austin Garcia has not stated his college at this time. Eric Hernandez, UC Santa Cruz. Janela Jimenez, UCLA. Juan Madrid USC. Judith Morello, UCLA. Miriam Pineda Gonzalez, Georgetown University. Victor Alanis, UC Santa Barbara. Jaylene Martinez, Stanford University. Irial R. Salva, UC San Diego. Damaris Rojas, Yale. Allison Aguirre, Loyola Marymount University. Rachel P. Flores, UC Irvine. Karina Perkasagi, best I can do, Karina, forgive me. UC San Diego. Edward Casada, University of Chicago. Daniel Ramirez, no college stated. Leslie Ramos, UC Irvine. Ashley Valencia, UC San Diego. Isabella Villalobos Arriaga, UC San Diego. Arlen Moreno, UC Irvine. Melissa Munoz, UC Irvine. Annalie Ortiz, UCLA. Osiris Ramirez, UC Santa Barbara. Maria Sierra, UC Irvine. Daniel Garcia Ramirez, Cerritos College, Cerritos. Cerritos Community College. Shantel Garcia, Cypress Community College. Crystal Martinez, Cerritos Community College. Nitze Cuarenta, Cerritos Community College. Charlie Gomez, Cerritos Community College. Jessica Carachure, Long Beach City College. Iris Gallardo, Cerritos Community College. Miguel Juarez, Long Beach City College. Brianna Salas, Cerritos Community College. And Jonathan Flores, Cerritos Community College. That would conclude the presentations for Education Month and to our service industry for the medical care. We thank you all. Special thanks to the teachers and the students who worked so hard to gain this acknowledgement from everyone on the City Council. We're proud of you. We're partners with you. We're rooting for your success. Okay, with that, we're going to go to City Council public comment updates.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do have two public comments from May the 19th, 2020's City Council meeting that need to report back on. The first one was from Mr. Alfredo Buenuelos. Mr. Buenuelos, his request was that we post on the website the committee appointments that are paid. And he also requested that we post on the website mortgage relief support letters that were referred to. We do have committee appointments that were made, and those have been posted on the website. And we also have mortgage relief support letters that were issued to our legislative representatives, and those have been posted on the city website as well. Next, we had Mr. Michael Radis speak, and his concern was for street racing in his neighborhood. He'd like more enforcement and better response from law enforcement. He also wants some types of physical street improvements. The response to that was that the following people have met with Mr. Radis to discuss his concerns or have spoken with him on the phone, and that includes the public safety director, the city clerk, the assistant city engineer, the city manager, and the sheriff's acting lieutenant have all spoken to Mr. Radis. Additionally, Mr. Radis has spoken with the Lakewood station captain, and that occurred on Friday. And lastly, Mayor Lemons spoke with Mr. Radis as well and has a meeting with him tomorrow that will also involve Captain Springle from the Lakewood station. And we are, although it does say that the assistant engineer informed Mr. Radis that speed humps and bot dots cannot be installed on Vermont Avenue, we're looking into ways that that can be done. And so with that, I will be happy to answer any questions, Mayor.
Are there any questions? If not, before we move into public comments, we have an announcement from our city attorney, Mr. John Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to give a quick summary of the rules of decorum regarding public comment. I wanted to give this for the benefit of the council, especially the new council members, to the city staff and also the members of the public that may wish to address the city council on issues relating to the city. In 2018, the city council adopted the rules of decorum and procedures that are applicable to the city officials, city staff, and members of the public at all meetings of the city council to ensure that the business of the city is attended to thoroughly and efficiently with opportunities for orderly public participation. These rules of decorum are intended to promote open meetings that welcome debate of public policy issues being discussed by the city council and an atmosphere of fairness, courtesy, and respect for differing points of view. This policy establishing the rules of decorum and procedures enables the city council, the city staff, and the members of the public to adhere to a consistent, fair, and equitable process which will allow the business of the city to be accomplished efficiently. With that, for those members of the audience or the public that wish to address the city council, we want to emphasize the following points. Members of the public may address the city council during the public comment period or prior to the consideration of any agenda item. Persons addressing the city council must address the council as a whole and not engage in either a debate or question and answer with individual council members, city staff, or with other members of the audience. It must be underscored that council members cannot take action individually, but collectively as a city council and approved by a majority. This also applies to letters that are signed by the mayor, but the mayor does not sign these letters individually, but only gets her approval from the majority of the city council as authorization. Each person who addresses city council must do so in an orderly manner and shall not make personal attacks, slanders, or profane remarks to any member of the council, the city staff, or other members of the general public. Any public request for staff comment must be made to the mayor, who then may direct those inquiries to the city manager, the city department head, or the city attorney as appropriate. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. With that, we'll move into public comments, Mr. Moreno.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have two public comments and then one public comment email that is related to item number 8 tonight. So we will read that email into the record when we get to item number 8. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Assistant City Manager, Andrew Villalpando, who will be introducing each of the speakers by phone. Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, as a reminder, we will be conducting public comment via telephone. Bear with us as we get our first speaker on the line.
Hello?
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Mr. Tom Hansen.
I'm here. That's me.
Good evening, Mr. Hansen. I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment at the Paramount
Yes.
City Council meeting. You are now being broadcast live to the City Council. Your public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. I will give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and the rest of the council and any community that's listening, and to staff also. Actually, this may take a slight bit longer than the 3 minutes, if that's permissible, because I think it's pretty important. And I do not mean to create any fear, shall I say, because of another virus, but this has to do with the Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control Board, which deals with the mosquitoes, and it's a press release that just came out yesterday.
Mr. Hansen,
And
before you continue, I just wanted to make it clear that you're actually giving a report for a committee that you sit on as a city representative. You're not calling as a resident with public comments. I thought you would actually be at that part of the agenda, but if you're going to be here, let's take the time clock down. This is a committee report for the council.
Okay, I didn't catch all of that, but I'll go ahead and continue. The first West Nile virus positive mosquito was actually collected in a mosquito trap in the city of Hacienda Heights. The Vector Control District routinely monitors populations of adult mosquitoes and test groups of adult female mosquitoes for the presence of West Nile virus and other mosquito-borne viruses. This detection should serve as a reminder that West Nile virus is endemic in Los Angeles County. As temperatures increase, so do mosquito populations and disease risks, which poses a serious public health threat to our communities. West Nile virus is transmitted to people and animals through the bite of an infected mosquito. There is no cure for West Nile virus. 1 in 5 persons infected with the virus will exhibit symptoms. Symptoms can include fever, headache, body aches, nausea, or skin rash. These symptoms can last for several days to several months. 1 in 150 people infected with the virus will require hospitalization. Severe symptoms include high fever, muscle weakness, neck stiffness, coma, paralysis, and possibly death. The late rainfalls, coupled with warmer temperatures, have contributed to increased mosquito activity in Los Angeles communities. This is a quote. Our agency will continue monitoring disease activity and treat affected areas, said Mary Jo Colburn, Director of Community Affairs for the Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control District. Although the positive mosquitoes were collected in one area at this time, all LA County residents should take precautions like wearing insect repellent and eliminating standing water around your homes. Any water left standing for more than 1 week in containers such as flower pots, fountains, and dish or pet dishes provide the perfect breeding habitat for mosquitoes. Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control District would like to remind residents that even the smallest amount of water can contribute to a large public health problem. Mosquito control is a shared responsibility, and residents must take an active role in reducing the threat of West Nile virus in their neighborhoods by taking the following steps. Eliminate standing water in clogged rain gutters, rain barrels, discarded tires, buckets, watering troughs, or anything that holds water for more than a week. Ensure that swimming pools, spas, and ponds are properly maintained. Change the water in pet dishes, bird baths, and other small containers at least weekly. Request mosquito fish from the Vector Control Board for placement in ornamental ponds. Wear insect repellent when outdoors where mosquitoes may be present. Report neglected, which they refer to as green swimming pools in your neighborhood, to your Vector Control District. For more information, residents can contact the Greater Los Angeles Vector Control District at 562-944-9656 or online at www.glacvcd.org. And you can follow the district on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at GLA Mosquito. That pretty much does it, and it is beginning to be the active mosquito season. So if everybody will take heed to those recommendations and watch around your properties for any standing water, that will help eliminate any mosquitoes. And always you can call. In fact, they're still working. They're in a kind of a, what do you want to say, because of the coronavirus, they have a problem with that, but they are still working and monitoring. And it may take a day or two longer for someone to respond, but they will respond. So feel free to call. And thank you very much. And good luck to all of you on the council and the staff and the residents of Paramount. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Do we have another speaker, Mr. Moreno?
Yes, we do, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I will be getting him on the phone line. Just 1 second, please. Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Leticia Vasquez Wilson. Hello, Miss Wilson? Hello, Leticia?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hi.
Hi, I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast to the City Council live. Your public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I will give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Leticia Vasquez Wilson. I'm a member of the Central Basin Municipal Water District Board of Directors, and I was calling you to request some time to speak to your body regarding the status of Central Basin. Central Basin is solvent. Central Basin has financial stability. We have been providing water to the region, both recycled and imported water, since 1952. And we were created specifically to be an additional source of water to 24 cities in LA County. Currently, we are being considered, our board is being, there's a bill, SB 625, where there's a possibility that our board will be dissolved, and we would love to come before your body to talk a little bit about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Mr. Moreno?
No, ma'am.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion? Council members, we're on the consent calendar. I'm looking for a motion for approval.
My motion for the approval, this is Councilmember Cuellar Stallings. I motion for the approval of the consent calendar for the approval of.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
This is Councilmember Aguayo. I second the motion.
Been moved by Cuellar Stallings, seconded by Aguayo. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. As we head into new business, I'm going to make a request that we move item 14 up under item 11, and then go in the following order after that. So just take 14 up and move it under item 11. I do need a motion and a second for that to happen.
I will motion. I'm good with that, Peggy. This is almost.
This is Cuellar Stallings. I second.
Okay, moved by Olmos and seconded by Cuellar Stallings. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. Okay, with that, we'll move to item 8, which is receive and file item for applications for fireworks permits.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Just a reminder, too, we do have a speaker's card for this one that was emailed to us. We start off tonight's business with the request for approval of this year's fireworks stand applications. Safe and sane fireworks are allowed in Paramount and have been allowed for decades now. Every year, though, we report back to the City Council on the enforcement of illegal fireworks, and last year we reported to you that the deputies cited 47 individuals for the discharge of illegal fireworks. Additionally, this year, to help law enforcement continue to address the use of illegal fireworks, the City Council in January, they doubled the fine amount, if you recall, which it did, for the discharge of illegal fireworks from $1,000 to $2,000. Additionally, the fine for anyone caught trying to sell illegal fireworks was increased by 400% from $1,000 to $5,000. We understand that given the current civil unrest that's taking place right now, that there could be concerns for the ability for the deputies to enforce illegal fireworks. I just want to point out that the mayor and I were on a call today with Captain David Springle of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and he mentioned that law enforcement is already seeing a slow die down of the current civil unrest. So by the 4th of July, which is still 4 weeks away, the anticipation by law enforcement is that we will be in a much different situation. Additionally, should anything like what we're seeing over the past week occur as we get closer to the 4th of July, I consulted with the city attorney, and we could always declare a local emergency and even a curfew, which could then lead to the possible disallowance of safe and sane fireworks. So, as we know, the groups that have applied to sell safe and sane fireworks typically use the funds raised to help their charitable organization. So with that, I will now turn it over to Mr. John Carver, our planning director, who will go over this item. Mr. Carver?
Thank you, John and Madam Mayor and council members. This item is a request to approve fireworks stands for the sale of safe and sane fireworks for 8 nonprofit organizations. The sale of fireworks is permitted from June 28th through July 4th between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. And here's a look at the locations of the 8 fireworks stands. Oh, sorry. The locations are the same as last year. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So the stand locations are the same as last year. And as is required by the municipal code, each stand is located at least 1/4 mile from each other. The code also states that as long as an organization applies for a fireworks stand, the organization may apply again the next year. With regard to the COVID-19 pandemic, we checked with Los Angeles County Public Health, and the sale of fireworks are permitted in the county with physical distancing, face coverings, and door-side pickup at the fireworks stands. Additionally, both TNT and Phantom Fireworks have policies in place to meet public health requirements. And it's recommended that you receive and file this report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Madam Mayor, it's back to you.
I apologize. Are there any questions on this item? If there are no
I have a question. Actually,
Okay.
I do. This is Councilmember. I have a question on this. Just the state of everything. If this is approved, is there any way that, because I know again that this is a fundraiser for these organizations, so it'd be really late in the game for us to say like no. But would there be a possibility of after setting up some type of I don't know what to call it, like a summit or something like that, so that we can get the input of the residents now? Because with times changing and evolving, most surrounding cities don't have don't have the sale of fireworks. So I'm just curious if that's something that we can do after.
Are you asking Councilmember Aguayo that with after tonight, regardless of how this vote goes, that you would like to see the council meet in some kind of summit to discuss fireworks? Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, council, and then of course just community input as well.
Yeah, like a summit where we can get all of the investors' input. Yeah,
that's it.
Okay. I personally would be in favor of that. As I've stated before, this is a new council. I have no idea how everybody, feels about fireworks. I've been on the record with how I feel, so I personally think that's a great idea. Comments from anybody else? Discussion? How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I was going to jump in, and thank you, Isabel, for jumping in as well. I would kind of feel the same way. I think it's time for us to kind of sit down and, whether it be a summit or focus group, we have a lot of issues right now with fireworks a lot of concerns with fireworks. I think we need to figure out a plan that, works for the churches that are trying to do fundraisers, but also works on the side of all the issues and complaints that we're having regarding fireworks. So there must be a happy medium somewhere that we could sit down and research and kind of figure out what our options are for next year.
Okay. Anyone else?
For the record, this is Councilmember Lori Guillen. I mentioned my concerns the last time we discussed this, and I asked what other cities were still selling Safe and Sane, and so I think it's a great idea because I know a lot of community members have the same concerns that we all know about.
Anyone else? I'm wondering, Mr. Moreno, given the council's desire to have, for now we're going to call it a summit on this, to make sure that this happens, could we make this part of a motion to, first of all, if we receive and file, folks, just so that you're clear, we are moving ahead with this year's fireworks stand. We're receiving and filing those who are going to be participating, and then we could receive and file, and with the motion, we could state that we want a fireworks summit to follow quickly after this 4th, so that there's plenty of time for discussion before the next 4th. Is that, Mr. Kavanaugh, doable?
Yes, it is, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so for you council members and vice mayor, that's a possibility if you would like to make it for the record. And so with that, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Actually,
Real quick,
I'm sorry.
Wait a moment. Is that, I think that was Councilmember Guillen, and is that the city attorney?
No, this is John Moran. This is a city manager. Just to clarify, I know on the agenda, the agenda says receive and file, but the motion does say approve the applications to sell fireworks submitted by the 8 eligible community groups. So,
okay, thank you for that clarification. So we could still, though, edit the motion to include the summit if that's their desire, because it does require a motion. And then Councilmember Guillen, you had a comment?
I did. I know we had all received an email with this in regards to fireworks. Was that, John, were you holding that to be read now?
yes, ma'am. That's what I had mentioned. So, Mayor Lemons, if you don't mind, if I could turn it over to our city clerk to read that.
That was next in the steps here. So,
okay.
Yes, I wanted to have you read into the record the email that we received.
Okay, I thought we were asking for a motion. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just clarifying what we needed so that we understood what we were voting on, but thank you.
Okay, very good. I will turn it over to Heidi Clerk, our city clerk, who will read.
Thank you. This comment is from Mike Radis, and it was submitted via email. With the upcoming 4th of July weekend coming, an annual nightmare for many residents, the COVID-19 pandemic, and a state of emergency declared in LA County, it is quite apparent that the city of Paramount should suspend the sale and use of fireworks in light of recent events. I have already communicated some of my concerns to the mayor, council members, City Manager Moreno, applicable city department heads, and the LASD captain. As law enforcement and first responders are often unable to keep up with the workload on a regular day, and the additional risk is not able to be mitigated with the resources available to our city and sheriff's department, it seems to be the only responsible and sensible option where things stand today. My neighborhood, for example, turns into a scene akin to something from a war film. A barrage of high-power, illegal mortars and explosives are lit for hours with little or no intervention or response from the sheriff's department when called in my past experience. Scared seniors, those with anxiety issues and pets are terrorized, and stray animals inevitably run the streets in the days after the 4th. With the current nationwide protests and local incidences of arson and looting, including in a shopping center where one of these stands is traditionally located, it seems highly problematic to have 8 flimsy plywood temp structures full of flammable and explosive materials spread around our town. Keep in mind, fireworks are being used as weapons against law enforcement on the streets of LA County right now. How can the LASD and LA County Fire dedicate their resources to defending these installations and manage the use of explosive devices they dispense. Tense law enforcement officers and residents do not need the added stress and confusion of trying to differentiate the sound of legal versus illegal fireworks versus gunfire. Our local emergency rooms and healthcare professionals should not be asked to deal with the resulting injuries during a global pandemic. Firefighters and EMS don't need the extra fire risk to life and property while currently defending structures ablaze and rendering aid all around the county. Please discontinue fireworks sales in Paramount this year and deny the permits in these uncertain and tumultuous times. It is unfair to subject already stressed and nervous residents, seniors, children, pets, and emergency services to added danger and nuisance, while unable to police their usage efficiently and keep people and animals safe. Please do the right thing and choose not to add to the current unrest and uncertainty. It would seem the patriotic and wise thing to do in these trying times.
Is that the end of the email?
Yes, that concludes Mr. Radis's comments.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. And then I just want to reiterate that we did receive Mr. Radis's email early enough that Mr. Moreno and I were able to get on a conference call with the captain to ask him if the stands would pose any particular issues this year, because we wanted to err on the side of caution. He assured us that he did not feel that that was the case, that it would be more than a month away, so public unrest, they expected to be settled. And then to be even more cautious, we went ahead and clarified with our city attorney that should that public unrest rear its head again, that we could do an emergency ordinance to stop the sale of the fireworks and not proceed. We also asked him if the coverage, because of COVID and the civil unrest, he was finding any incident in that would make it difficult. And again, he assured us he did not. He also was very specific that the kind of ordinances that the city has adopted make it much easier for them to do enforcement, where in some of the cities they haven't adopted ordinances and they have to follow the county ordinance, which makes it very difficult for them to enforce. And that the increase in fines, they did see a definite improvement in Lakewood once that happened. So just want you to have all the information as we move to a motion. Do I have a motion for approval or denial of this item?
I'll make a motion. This is Councilmember Lori Gillen, and then you guys can do whatever you want with it. But I'm going to make a motion to deny it for now, based on the timing of the coronavirus, the fact that when you light fireworks, it tends to create social gatherings. I just think at this particular time, with law enforcement, first responders, budget concerns that citizens have reached out to me, and then we'd have to do special overtime for law enforcement on top of the overtime that we've done now. I'm just going to make a motion, and then we could still have the summit and discuss Paramount's future with fireworks. But at this particular time, I'm going to make a motion to deny.
Okay, thank you. If I don't get a second, Councilmember Guillen's motion will die for lack of a second. Do I have an alternative motion?
Yes, actually, I want to recommend, I'm going to motion that we're going to approve these this time. In a sense, it's 3 weeks away. These organizations have to go through a process. I understand what you're saying, Councilmember Guillen, but the thing of it is, it's called partnerships as well. And I think that we should go ahead and let's do it this year. It's 3 weeks away. And with a motion, that there's an action follow-up to the summit. That's my motion.
If I don't have a second, Councilmember Olmos's motion will die.
I second the motion. This is Councilmember Aguayo.
Okay, it's been moved by Olmos and seconded by Aguayo that we approve the applications for the sell fireworks as submitted, with the condition that a summit is quickly followed after the 4th of July to discuss Paramount's future and Paramount's firework future. May I have a roll call?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
No.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos,
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 8, a temporary outdoor dining program.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. Moving on to a COVID-19 related item. Part of the city's efforts to assist our business community with the recovery involves looking at creative ways to temporarily allow restaurants to use public spaces. And we've all heard that restaurants are allowed to reopen now. However, they can only open to a portion of their usual capacity. So, to serve more customers than what will be allowed for indoor dining, we're presenting to you tonight our ideas for an expanded temporary outdoor dining allowance. This is being done in other cities as well, as you're going to soon hear. And just to let you know, when we were evolving this idea, we involved a cross-section of several departments, including planning, public works, public safety, and administration. So this has been really well thought out. A lot of input has been given across department lines. So with that, I'll now turn it over to our planning director, Mr. John Carver, who will handle the item. John?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, members of the council. Next slide. By way of background, on May 19th, the council reviewed the activities of the Business Recovery Committee, which touched on assisting restaurants with expanded outdoor dining. On May 12th, guidance was issued by the state and the county in preparation of restaurants reopening, and this includes outdoor seating. Next slide. Currently, Paramount restaurants can apply for a conditional use permit to allow outdoor dining. Tables are generally in front of or adjacent to a restaurant, and some examples in the city include Alondra Hot Wings and Chipotle. Paramount also has common outdoor seating at Yogurtland and Jamba Juice, and also at the Clearwater Crossing. Outdoor seating can also be flexible on a short-term basis. This could include parking areas or seating within passageways. With the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, outdoor dining is being tried in different places, and it includes things such as temporarily closing streets to allow for dining. We'll look at what a couple of other cities are doing. The city of San Jose is accepting applications for the use of streets, parking lots, and recreational spaces for temporary outdoor dining. The city of Long Beach is focused on the use of public right-of-way and on expanded outdoor dining on private property. This is a concept that Studio 111 did for outdoor dining in Long Beach. You can see the parklet on the left-hand side there, and then a little bit further toward the middle of the slide, you can see some outdoor dining areas on a blue carpet. And Paramount does have one parklet, similar to the one in the picture, and it's located in front of Yogurtland on Paramount Boulevard. In Sierra Madre, outdoor dining will take place on private parking areas, public sidewalks, and parking places that are on the street. Sierra Madre has developed guidelines for outdoor dining that include maintaining ADA access and keeping areas clean of trash. Sacramento has begun a program to allow outdoor dining on the public sidewalk and on private parking lots. Temporary and portable furniture is required, and ADA access must remain in place. And finally, looking at the city of Huntington Beach, they have a plan to allow temporary conversion of adjacent public and private spaces for outdoor dining. So in summary, there are 3 common themes in outdoor dining. They include flexibility, quick response, and creativity. We would defer to the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control for matters related to serving alcohol outdoors. We would recommend an administrative review that would happen quickly and would take into account surrounding properties. The administrative review would ensure that temporary outdoor dining areas are safe from vehicular traffic and that parking would not be impacted. And we would like to have the council provide input and direction on developing a policy. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carver. That input, are you looking for that at a later date when you come forward with more specifics, or on the report that we currently have in hand?
If you have anything to offer right now, then we will take that and develop a policy.
Okay, thank you. So does anybody have any questions or comments they would like to make at this time?
John, I just have one quick question. It's Brenda. You said time is of the essence. What were your thoughts? I didn't hear if you said there was a timeline to kind of get this moving. I think this is great.
We would move very quickly. I kind of have a framework in my head about what to put together, the application, and then I think we would start offering restaurants to apply, submitting a site plan. We would run that through public safety to make sure that there's not any danger to the public from vehicles. So I would say within a week or two at most.
Oh, well. Okay, great. Thank you.
This is Councilmember Cuellar Stallings. I think this is an awesome idea. Thank you, John.
Anyone else? I concur with the council members. Nice research, good job, being proactive, moving forward. This is part of the business recovery that we want to see. So thank you very much, staff, for being forward thinking. This is a receive and file item, but I do need a motion to receive and file.
This is Councilmember Cuellar Stallings. I move the item that the City Council receive and file this report and provide the staff with the comments and suggestions.
This is Councilmember Aguayo. I second the motion.
Moved by Cuellar Stallings, seconded by Aguayo. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. With that, we'll move on to item 10, a development activity update.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. We do this once or twice a year. It's a review of some of the developments that are either under construction, that are about to start, or that have recently finished. There's lots of exciting stuff that you'll see in this presentation, and we're happy to present this with you. With that, I'll turn it over to, once again, our planning director, Mr. John Carver, who will go over the development activity update. John?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and council members, the first project we'll look at on the next slide is Tierra Mia. This is a very exciting project for the northeast area of Paramount. Tierra Mia recently received approval from the Planning Commission and the Development Review Board, and the building, as you can see in the slide here, will have a modern design and will feature a drive-through. The next project is on Paramount Boulevard. This is also very exciting. This is the recently completed Huchateria Rio Luna, and since we recently lost Starbucks at the pond, the downtown once again has a great place to get coffee and food. Next, we'll take a look at a 3-unit pad building at the northwest corner of Rosecrans Avenue and Garfield Avenue. This was recently approved by the Development Review Board. The design will match the design of the existing commercial structures that were constructed several years ago. The next project is a commercial rehabilitation project that was decades in the making. You can see the dramatic difference on the left, with the before picture, and on the right with the after picture. This is not quite complete. They still need to do paving in the parking lot, but we're very, very pleased with the outcome of this project. Last year, the council approved a code amendment to allow digital billboards along the 710 freeway north of Rosecrans Avenue, and we are very close to bringing the development agreement to the Planning Commission and then to the City Council for approval. The next project is an upcoming commercial rehabilitation project, and this is on Paramount Boulevard adjacent to Domino's Pizza, and the modern design of this project will be a nice improvement on Paramount Boulevard. This is a slow-moving 8-unit single-family residential development at the northwest corner of Somerset Boulevard and Indiana Avenue. The property owner has had some issues with his architect and some of his contractors, but we're hopeful that this will continue to progress. This 12-unit housing project was recently completed at the northeast corner of Somerset Boulevard and Texaco Avenue, and the homes sold for prices over $600,000. Another residential project was the construction of 4 new homes and the remodel of existing homes at this site on Gundry Avenue. And as you can see from the picture, this has provided a big visual improvement to this area of the city. Another project that is having a big visual impact is on Orange Avenue. This is an 11-unit residential project nearing completion, and this is on Orange between Alondra and Somerset. Looking at some industrial projects, this building is on Vermont Avenue, and it is nearing completion. The building features a stucco exterior with decorative insets. This is a recently approved project from Carlton Forge, and this is to construct a parking lot on Colorado Avenue. A building at the site will be demolished, and there will be 76 parking places, 6 of which will be electric vehicle charging stations. Weber Metals has finished a dust collection project that is required by the AQMD to meet Rule 1430, and Rule 1430 states that total building enclosures with dust collectors are required for metal grinding activities. Another industrial project is at the former location of the Gillen's Market. The modern design of this building includes decorative louvers, vertical accent windows, and a landscaped building wall. The project has been delayed a bit due to the owner switching architects, and this project will be a showroom for machine shop equipment. And finally, this is a church that is at the southwest corner of Orange Avenue and Somerset Boulevard. It's undergoing a complete rehabilitation. The remodel will transform this corner with an updated building design and all new landscaping and fencing. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carver. Do I have questions or comments from council on this activity?
John, I just wanted to say that's a great looking activity. It's giving the city a great new look. Just keep those coming. I really appreciate all the hard work you've been doing to bringing in some of those types of buildings into the city. Thank you.
The housing projects where it looked like went to some multifamily units, maybe from some single-family homes, do those count towards our RENA numbers?
Yes, all new housing counts toward our RENA number.
Was that an increase in housing that took place there?
Yes, it was. There were two structures. Those were two lots, and they each had a single-family house. So that went from 2 units to 11. So we got a gain of 9.
And then I've been getting a lot of questions, seeing all of this commercial rehabilitation going on about the market on Downey Avenue down from the high school. That's been like a code enforcement nightmare for years. I don't know who the new owners are, so I don't know what the name of the market is, but is there an update on that property? And do you understand which one I'm referring to?
Yes, I do. 5 Star Market on Downey, north of Rosecrans. I'm sorry, yes, on Downey, north of Rosecrans. Yes, they had a very ambitious project to start out with. They were going to demo everything on the property, including the structures to the north, and they were going to develop a commercial center. That proved to be too expensive. They revised their plans to keep the buildings and just do a really nice remodel. So we have a plan that we would like to take to the Development Review Board, and we're going to be talking to them about doing a commercial rehab. So we're hoping that this project will take off soon.
Oh, that would be really helpful. I know that I know that they're in code enforcement right now. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And Mr. Kavanaugh, if you're still with us, are they anywhere near, prosecution at this point? Is it still a long stay because the courts are shut down? So maybe the rebate would be the better way to go?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we made a big milestone by getting it over to the planning department finally, which is good news because now they have a contractor and they're working with planning to get this plan. What we're doing at this point is to ensure that the property is maintained. There's not weeds growing or graffiti or just unwieldy landscape issues that they had in the past. So whenever we get notice of that, we contact the property owner. We have them cut down the weeds, keep it landscaped and clean. Meanwhile, while this plan is being progressed through the planning department. So we're trying to keep it as feasible as possible until the actual planning construction starts. So that's where we're at with them. They do have some issues that are collateral to them from surrounding neighborhoods. And we try to steer them to public safety on those issues. So we're trying to get a concerted effort from all the departments to keep the property at least presentable until the plan gets completed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. This is a receive and file item. If there are no more questions or comments, may I have a motion to receive and file the development activity update?
This is Councilmember Aguayo. I make to receive and file the report.
I'll second. This is Olmos.
Moved by Aguayo, seconded by Olmos. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos,
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. With that, we're going to move on to item 11, reports for award of contracts. This is an A and B item.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, thank you very much. Some time ago, we held active shooter training for our employees. It's not a fun topic to discuss, obviously, but is a very, very, very necessary topic. And this training was led by a security expert with the LA County Sheriff's Department. Now, as part of this training, the security expert, he roved around City Hall and inspected our workplace environments. And he recommended improvements to help enhance the safety of our employees. The need for these security enhancement became even more apparent when we had visits from First Amendment rights videographers who pretty much invasively roamed the hallways of City Hall, entering offices that were off the main corridors, and basically filming employees at work. So two of the recommendations are before you tonight for approval, and that would help to limit access to certain hallways of City Hall, and also to install bulletproof glass at our front counter. Although this will change the way the public has physical access to City Hall, I want to stress to you that we will still continue to provide the same friendly, exceptional customer service that we're known for. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director, Ms. Adriana Figueroa, who will handle the item. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, as John indicated, the security expert did provide a full assessment of the City Hall building and provided those recommendations for improvements. So I'll go through them. The first line of improvements are the interior improvements. Let's see if this is on. Can you help me, Anthony? Can you move it to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, so we received 2 bids for this project with the apparent low bid submitted by Jason Golson Construction, Inc. in the amount of $25,766. The second bid that had been submitted came in at $29,218.96. Okay, it's taking a little bit of one. You got it? Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so based on that assessment, the following modifications were being recommended. We will be installing a dividing wall with automatic locking door system, and you see that area that is designated in blue. That's where that dividing wall will go in. This west entrance will become the only public entrance to City Hall, as John had indicated, and the breezeway, which is the south entrance, would be close to the public. Additionally, the project includes lowering a portion of the customer service counter to provide for ADA accessibility. And that is the picture on the bottom. Oh, next slide. When it comes to the security enhancements related to the glass, the recommendation was for the installation of bullet-resistant glass along the customer service and cashier counters. So we did receive 2 bids with the apparent low bid submitted by 7 Point Construction in the amount of $46,998.75. And the second bid that had been submitted came in at $52,312. Next slide. The bullet-resistant glass would be installed in a manner that allows staff to continue to communicate and interact with the public without any type of disruption. And you can see from those images, right now we have plexiglass, but the bullet-resistant glass will go almost to the top and leave about 1 foot or 1.5 feet from the ceiling to the bottom of that screen. Next slide. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Questions? I have a question, Mr. Moreno. You know, we discussed this item earlier, and just regarding a possible different design that may provide even more security. Would approval of this item prevent you from discussing those possibilities with your architect or contractor?
No, none whatsoever, Madam Mayor. That's something that we can add after this.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, so we need a motion on item A, the award of contract for the interior improvements at City Hall.
This is a motion for the award contract, the installation of security encampments at City Hall.
I'll second. This is almost.
Moved by Cuellar Stalling, seconded by Vice Mayor Olmos. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. Is there an additional presentation for B?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so this is part of the same presentation, but I do need a separate motion for the award of contract for installation of the security enhancements at City Hall. Councilmember
Gian, so moved.
Second, almost.
Moved by Councilmember Gian, seconded by Olmos. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Quer Stallings,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos,
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. With that, we're going to go to item 14, which we had earlier approval to move up on the agenda. This is a receive and file item about notification of water well 14.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, thank you very much. We recently informed the City Council that we had done testing at all 3 of our water well sites. Even though we weren't required to, we voluntarily conducted testing for 2 chemicals that are commonly referred to as PFOS and PFOAs, and I will not try to pronounce what they stand for because it's a very scientific word. Of the 3 well sites, we're very happy to report that we did not find any traces of the PFOAs, and we only found at 1 of the 3 well sites a slightly elevated amount of PFOS. Under state regulations, we're not required to shut down this well site, but we did so anyways. So here to give us more is our water expert, Adriana Figueroa, along with, we too have with us tonight 2 members of our water department, Mr. Norm Mamea and Mr. David Ariano, who are available to answer any technical questions regarding our water system. So with that, I'll turn it over to Adriana. Adriana?
Thank you, John. And yes, before we get started, I want to make sure and thank Norm Mamea is our water superintendent who's here in the audience, and Mr. David Arellano, who is our water supervisor, but also AKA, I guess, water quality guru, as I named him. All right, with that, we'll go on to the presentation. Next slide. Thank you. I wanted to provide you with a little bit of information on our water system, our service area accounts. We have approximately 7,400 accounts. Our annual water demand is an average of 6,400 acre-feet per year. And just to put it into context, an acre-foot of water is approximately 325,000 gallons, or enough to supply for 2 households per year. We utilize both groundwater, which is also known as pumped water, and importer water. The groundwater, we are currently meeting our water demand with groundwater, about 90% of it. And with the new addition of our well 16 coming up, we will be able to meet pretty close to 99.9% demand. In terms of importer water, we do have 2 connections, and those are provided through Central Basin Municipal Water District, who brings the water from the Metropolitan Water District. And this is water that is coming from the Colorado River and the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, which is also known as the California Aqueduct. Next slide, please. Okay, so I wanted to also provide you with our water system map. You may have seen this before. We do have 3 wells. We have well 15, well 13, and well 14. Well 15 is located close to Dills Park over by San Luis, and well 13 is located south of Somerset, and I guess it would be southwest of Vermont and Somerset. And well 14 is located at Alondra School. We also have those 2 connections for importer water that I mentioned, and those are in the yellow, and they're named CV13 and CV52. In terms of water quality is heavily regulated by the state of California and the federal government. Water is tested regularly on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, and also on an annual basis as per the State Water Resources Control Board requirements. We take over 1,300 water samples on an annual basis. And just to reiterate, water quality in Paramount continues to meet state and federal drinking water standards. Next slide. So our water quality report are also known the Consumer Confidence Report, and that's a copy of the recent Consumer Confidence Report that it's on our website. It's usually what we report we report for the year before. So what we have currently is our 2019 Consumer Confidence Report. And that refers to the chemical, physical, and biological, and organic and inorganic characteristics of water. And basically water quality is a measure of those characteristics against standards that are set by the state for human consumption. The state often establishes maximum contaminant levels for certain compounds, and they establish those maximum concentrations of a compound that are allowed in any public water system. Next slide. We also have what it's called unregulated compounds. And these are compounds where an MCL, meaning maximum contaminant level, has not yet been established by EPA. And for those unregulated compounds, we have what it's called a notification level and a response level. In terms of the notification level, it's an advisory level that does not pose any significant health risk. The response level, it is a level where it is recommended that that component or that compound is removed from the water system. We currently have in the state of California about 31 unregulated compounds with notification levels. And just recently in August of 2019, there was a change in the notification levels and the response levels for the compounds commonly known as PFOA and PFOS. Next slide, please. So what are PFAS? Because we often hear PFAS, PFOA, and PFOS. PFAS is basically the family of these compounds, and it does include PFOA and PFOS. These are man-made compounds that are manufactured in the U.S. and have been manufactured since the 1940s. They have industrial uses, and in terms of those, they are used for firefighting foams and chrome plating facilities. They are also commonly found in consumer products, such as fast food wrappers, pizza boxes, non-stick cookware like Teflon, clothing, fabric protectant like Scotchgard, and any stain-resistant carpets. So they're basically everywhere. And they have been, in terms of the PFOA and the PFOS, they have been regulating the phase out of these compounds and these consumer products since the 2000s, but that's only in the United States. Any products that we purchase from out of the country may continue to have those chemicals. Next slide. And I apologize, the screen is showing it a little bit distorted, so I don't know what's happening. Okay, so when we test for these chemicals, the notification levels and the response levels are set at parts per trillion. And so what is a part per trillion? It's an extremely small detection limit that is set. And just to give you an example, 1 part per trillion is the equivalent of 1 drop in a large lake full of water. The response level for PFOA was just recently changed to 10 parts per trillion, and the response level for PFOS was just recently changed to 40 parts per trillion, and we'll go into that in a little bit. Next slide. So we conducted testing for these unregulated compounds back in 2013 under our, what is called a UCMR testing. These compounds were part of that requirement, and we did test it back then. We did have non-detect for these compounds in all of our water wells, and so therefore no additional testing was required. And so you may have heard many water agencies were required to test back in 2019, and the reason for that was because they may have had a detection level or met some type of criteria where the state required them to do additional testing last year. So what we did is we did voluntary testing for both of these compounds, and we tested all of our water wells. Well 13 was non-detect, and well 15 was non-detect. However, well 14 showed a detection level of 7.9 parts per trillion. And so what it's commonly known is you do confirmation samples once you have something that is so close to the notification level. which is 6.5. So we did a couple of confirmation samples, and the reason for that was the second confirmation sample that was done in March resulted in, I'm sorry, go back one slide, please. The second confirmation sample that was done in March was 6.3, and we thought that was probably an anomaly, and so we wanted to make sure to do another confirmation sample to see where we were at. And the confirmation sample in April came back at 9.5 parts per trillion. These are all parts per trillion. And so what has to be done once we have, I'm sorry, go back again. What has to be done once we have these confirmation samples is we have to take an average of all of them. And the average for all three comes back at 7.9 parts per trillion. Again, the notification level is 6.5, so it's slightly above the notification level and significantly below the response level at 40 parts per trillion for PFOS. Although, as John indicated, although we were not required to test, we did test, and even though we are not required to shut this well down, we did. We voluntarily shut the well down and took the opportunity to also conduct regularly scheduled maintenance. The well has been shut down and continues to be shut down, and I'll go over the next steps in a few minutes. Next slide now. Thank you. So as I had indicated, PFAS, which again is the whole family of PFOA and PFOS. By the way, there's more like 4,000 compounds that are part of that PFAS family, but we're only being required to test for those two, or at least we're voluntarily testing for those two. The regulations for PFAS have been significantly been more stringent recently. And so the new regulations, just so that you know, they don't apply to our test results because we were never mandated to do these tests. But even if they did apply, we will still be under the RL, which is the response level. And I'd like to correct the agenda report at this time. I did not include this, but in February of 2020, the State Water Resources Control Board issued new response level. Again, notification levels remain the same, and the notification levels are basically notification to our governing board. But in February of this year, the new response level was set at 10 parts per trillion for PFOA and 40 parts per trillion for PFOS. And that is based on a running 4-quarter average. Again, well 14 is still below the RL, the response level, and slightly above the notification level. And it continues, and it, even if we were to provide that water, it continues to remain safe for human consumption. Next slide. So what are the state requirements in terms of notification? I briefly mentioned that. The requirement is that the city council, or our governing board, in this case is the city council, must be notified within 30 days after a confirmed detection. And so notification was provided to the council on May 14th. We are anticipating conducting quarterly samples at well 14 for PFOS moving forward. And the requirement, again, the state requirement is that we include those test results in the city's annual water quality report, or the consumer confidence report, for the year 2020, which will come out in May of 2021. Next slide. So in terms of next steps, well 14 continues to be shut down. We are conducting quarterly monitoring, and we will continue to conduct that for a year. We are unable to design any type of treatment system at this time. We need to gather more quarterly monitoring so that we can know what we're dealing with. And just so that you are aware, EPA has not yet established an MCL for this compound. They are working on it, and they are telling us that it will take approximately 2 years to do so, because there's a lot that's required for this. And so, again, we will continue to monitor and once we have all the monitoring for about a year, we will be able to take a look at it and see what design options would be available for us for a treatment system. Wells 13 and 15 will continue to operate at full capacity, and we are purchasing importer water. In fact, we're purchasing more importer water than we had predicted. And that, and basically in the next coming months, we anticipate that to increase even more because usually our consumption increases during the summer heat months. I wanted to also point out that WRD is already working on funding opportunities for treatment options, which would be in the form of either grants or loans. However, because our levels are so far below the response level, prioritization is going to be given to the many agencies that are currently above the response level. And so we will continue to monitor that, but again, because our numbers are so minute, we may not be able to get any type of grant funding. Next slide. And I wanted to end the presentation by again reiterating that water quality in Paramount continues to meet state and federal drinking water standards. If I'm available to answer any questions, but that basically concludes my report.
Thank you, Adriana. Do we have questions regarding the report?
I have a couple questions. This is Councilmember Guillen.
Okie doke.
Mm-hmm. Adriana, when did well 13 go back up? Because I remember in one of the presentations, I thought we said we weren't using well 13 anymore.
Yes, Councilmember Guillen, well 13 has been being used in the past. It was usually our backup well whenever additional demand was needed. We would bring well 13 up in operation. It is meeting all testing, and it's all of the water that is coming out is it's clean and it meets water quality standards. So we have not had any issues.
But wasn't it down for a little while where we weren't using it?
No, I believe we have been using it. It's always been our backup well. Because well 14 and well 15 are much bigger capacity wells, well 13 was more of the backup for it.
Maybe I'm confused. Where is well 13 located?
Well 13 is by Village Park, about a block away. It's south of Somerset and on Vermont.
Is it the one on Carlton Forge's property? Or I don't know if that's Carlton Forge or Paramount property.
Yes.
Whose property is that?
It's our property, I believe.
Okay, so it is the same one. I thought for some reason that we had said we weren't using that well, and that's why we were building a new well. But on to my next question. My next question was for well 14, notification level. Is there any requirement to notify any of the residents of Paramount of the PFAS or PFAS issue?
No, the requirement right now is to notify the council. But again, it's not even applicable to us because we were not mandated to test. We just voluntarily test.
Okay, so with that being said, and you know how you said it's not, it still fits mandated requirements, why did we shut it down then?
We wanted to be cautious, and we wanted to continue to do more monitoring to see if it's perhaps it may be an anomaly. So we will continue to monitor it.
And if I could just interject a question or a confirmation, I thought I read to Adriana that it was being shut down for maintenance anyway, and so we just decided to leave it down as a precaution. Is that?
Yes, that is correct, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. If it's fine, if you're saying that the water is fine to drink and to use based on standards, I just don't understand why we're shutting it down then, I guess, other than the maintenance itself.
Right. We basically did it just out of an abundance of caution. I will tell you, though, that many water agencies have not shut it down when they are above the notification level. They may have shut it down if they needed to when they are above the response level. But even at that, they are continuing to provide the water since they're required to continue to monitor it for about a year.
So the precautionary measure is, what caution are you taking? You shut it down because why?
Again, we're just doing it out of an abundance of caution
What
until,
caution though? Can you tell me what caution you're concerned about?
well, these compounds are still being studied. EPA is still reviewing the dangers of these compounds, and we just wanted to be, again, extremely cautious.
So health concerns?
No,
No?
that's not what I'm hearing. I want to just say
thank you.
that for me, I'm pleased that they shut it down, if nothing else, just for public confidence. You know, we've had a lot of inquiries and false information put out there about our water. It's not a well that needs to be online right now to supply. And so I think the words abundance of caution stated. We have no idea, and neither does the EPA. They don't even know how to take it out of the water yet, is my understanding, which was going to be my question. So why not err on the side of caution?
No, well, if you'd let me continue talking before interjecting me like you make me do for you, I'm glad that we're taking it offline for caution, but when I get questions, I want to be able to answer them, and that's why I'm asking them. If we're erring on the side of caution, I'm all for that. But I'd like to be able to explain why, and that's why I'm asking questions.
I appreciate it. I just felt that you had asked the same question 3 times, and maybe I could add clarity. I wasn't trying to overdo your question. So please continue.
No, I just wanted to ask questions so that I had clarity. So when somebody asked me the question, well, you know, what I'm asking, I wanted to make sure.
I totally understand. Go ahead and ask it again.
So when I said for the abundance of caution, I just want to make sure we're shutting it down because we don't know enough about these PFOS and PFAS, and we want to make sure that for health reasons we're doing the right thing. I mean, what other reason would it be if it wasn't for health, right?
We're basically, what we would like to do is continue to monitor this and keep in mind that all of these changes in the response levels or notification levels have been done through legislation, but really there is no toxicology analysis that has been done as part of that MCL. And so these things keep changing, and we just wanted to be extremely cautious.
Okay, and the reason I was asking about well 13 is because somebody had showed me some information that well 13 was no longer working. So I'm just getting I just want to make sure that I have the correct picture and where it's located and what it's next to. That's the reason why I had my questions. I want to be able to answer properly.
Madam Mayor, I don't have a question, but I have a comment for you, Adriana. You know, what I'm trying to understand is if there's so many water agencies in a bind, how is it that the MCL, there's no time frame for a treatment option? I don't understand that. Why is it taking so long? Because they don't know or understand, the EPA doesn't understand what they have or what they're dealing with?
Correct. Basically, what it is EPA has to make an assessment. They have to conduct a toxicology analysis, and this takes months and months of studying, and they have to see at what level, at what parts per trillion, is it still safe for consumption? And that is not an analysis that can be done overnight. It usually takes about 2 to 3 years. My understanding is that they are expediting it, but they don't, even at expediting it, they're looking at 2 years.
So meaning, but your recommendation is we're going to be testing it for how long?
I would like to continue to test it for a year. And then at that time, we can look at any type of treatment options that may be available.
At that time.
Right,
Okay.
where we can design a treatment option for the well.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Adriana, is there anything available at this time that we're aware of, treatment options?
They are still being studied. There's about 3 types of options. One is completely, here's the problem with treatment systems is that they may or may not work with each individual water agency. It really depends on the size of the treatment, the footprint of where the well is located, and how much are they going to be removing from the water source. And
All right.
so that's why continuing to monitor and getting additional data is critical so that a proper design can be established.
Okay, thank you, Adriana. And John, if I have a question for you regarding Councilmember Guillen's comment for clarification for myself. Well 13 was the discussion of the issue that we had over the water video, if I'm correct. And just for where did it come into play that well 13 was still operational, was non-operational, I should say. I know that was part of that video. They said it had been shut down because of contaminants. And that was one of the things that we clarified in the letter, was that the well had never been shut down. It was still operational. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor, that is correct.
Because I'm just thinking that might have been where the inference that it was shut down came from, because it was part of that that video that had the misinformation. But indeed, we did write and let them know that the well had never been shut down and it was still operational. I shouldn't say never, because I'm sure it's been shut down for maintenance and other things, but was not shut down for any kind of contamination or anything like that.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, other questions regarding this item? If not, then we will, let's see, move to 14. It's a receive and file item, so I just need a motion to do that action. Receive and file the report.
This is Councilmember
This is Councilmember Aguayo. I make a motion to move the item at hand.
Okay.
Did you have a question, Cuellar Stallings?
No, I was trying to motion for the receive and file of the report, but that's okay.
Wait, we have the motion from Aguayo, so would you second that then?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Aguayo and a second from Cuellar Stallings. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo? Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. Okay, with that, we'll move to item 12, Senate Bill 625, Central Basin Municipal Water District. Report, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sticking with the topic of water, last week the state Senate introduced a bill, SB 625. This bill would dissolve the Central Basin Municipal Water District and temporarily put it in the hands of the Water Replenishment District. As you're about to hear, there's wide support for this bill by members of the California legislature and local cities and water purveyors. Additionally, as a reminder, the city has joined several other cities and water purveyors in 2 separate lawsuits aimed at correcting the Central Basin Municipal Water District Board's acts of malfeasance and public meeting law violations. So with that, I'll once again turn it over to Adriana Figueroa, our Public Works Director, to go over the legislation. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Next slide. Sorry. Okay, so Madam Mayor, members of the council, as John has indicated, SB 625 was introduced late last week, or we were aware of this bill late last week. It was introduced by Senator Bradford, and it's co-sponsored by Assembly members Cristina Garcia, Joan Sawyer, Calderon, Carrillo, Chow, Gibson, Kamlager, Speaker Rendon, and Assemblymember Santiago. The bill would essentially dissolve the Central Basin Municipal Water District and transfer those responsibilities for a period of 18 months to another elected board, which is WRD, in the form of a receivership. During that time, the Local Agency Formation Commission for the County of LA would be charged to conduct a municipal service review of the agency conduct a public process in order to establish a new governance structure for this agency and report back those findings to the legislature. Next slide. SB 625 indicates that both the 2015 state audit results and the 2016 legislation that was introduced or that was brought up as a result of that state audit did not cure all the mismanagement at the district. We currently have two current litigations, one for the fixed meter charge and another for the Brown Act violations, which Paramount was involved in those two litigations. It's still involved in those two litigations. In March of 2020, the LA District Attorney's Office demanded a cure for Brown Act violations that had been occurring since late last year. The bill indicates that Central Basin also failed to legally appoint a general manager or district legal counsel, and it's operating at a deficit. The bill also indicates that Central Basin has failed to enact cost-cutting measures, even with substantial loss of water sales revenue. Again, the bill also indicates that they have not yet embarked on an approval process that is necessary to continue the standby charge for their recycled water system, which will translate into a loss of $3 million in revenues annually. One of the most important issues the bill refers to is that the chronic budget shortfalls will cause significant increases in water rates for all of us. Next slide. The Southeast Water Coalition, which is a regional organization comprised of 11 cities, Paramount is a member agency. In fact, a council member Aguayo represents us in the board, in the Southeast Water Coalition board. Southeast Water Coalition advocates typically for cities when it comes to maintaining lower cost for, in this case, imported water or even replenishment assessment fees. So Southeast Water Coalition joined many cities and water agencies in support of the bill late last week. They called an emergency meeting and did this and submitted their support position for the bill. Central Basin Water Association, the California Water Association, and Cal Mutuals also submitted support position for the bill. SB 625 was heard at the Rules Committee on Thursday, May 28th. It was then referred to the Assembly Committee on Local Government, which the hearing was held yesterday, June 1st. And it was approved at that committee, and it has now been referred to the Assembly Appropriations Committee, which is scheduled this week. I'm not sure if it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday, but it is scheduled this week. And if approved, it will then move to the Assembly and Senate for additional votes. Many agencies are submitting, as we had indicated, their support position for this bill, and we would like to know if the council is interested in doing so as well. That basically concludes my report.
Thank you, Adriana. Do we have questions or comments?
I have a question, Mayor. Leticia Vasquez asked to come before the council. I know she's one of the elected officials for the Central Water Basin. Is there any way that we could hear the other side of the coin and hear her out and set something up so we could make a decision based on hearing all the facts of both sides?
I think that would totally be at the council's pleasure. I know that for myself, I've been aware of the issues at the water district for a really long time, and then out of respect for Ms. Vasquez, recently watched a 2.5-hour video where a meeting of the water board where all of these issues of solvency and lawsuits and the situation right now at the water board were discussed. I don't know if anybody else had the opportunity to view that, or if they want to hear more. So that's totally at the discretion of the council. And There, of course, could be other questions, other comments, or a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
If I could just finish real quick. Councilmember Guillen, I just feel like, you know, when I first got elected to council and I went to all these orientations, one of the things that they really pressed was if you don't know all the facts of both sides of something, an issue, or you need some clarity, not to vote on it until you can answer somebody's question. If they tap your shoulder in the hallway and say, well, what about this? If you can't do that, then you shouldn't be voting on things that you don't have all the answers to. And at this point, I just don't feel like I have all the answers. Maybe you're right, Mayor Lemons. Maybe I need to sit through, if somebody can forward me a link to that 2-hour video, maybe that's what I need to do. But at this point, I just don't feel like I have enough information to say one way or the other.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, this is Adriana. I just kind of wanted to interject something that I forgot to mention.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Figueroa.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention because I believe Councilmember Guillen was asking about the other side. What I had heard from the committee hearing yesterday, there were comments that were expressed from the opposition that had to do with privatization. There was a concern that the bill would allow for privatization. I read SB 625, and I don't see anything in there that indicates that there's even the possibility of that happening. I'm not quite sure where that is coming from, but I like I said, I read the bill. I don't see privatization anywhere, particularly as I had indicated before, where the local agency formation committee would have the ability to review and do a complete review of the district and provide public input in terms of doing or redoing the governance structure of that district. So I don't know, even though that was one of the opposition's comments, I don't know where that could be found because it is not in the legislation.
And that was a concern that I had because that was the chatter that I had heard. Is there any way we could get somebody on the line to give us a 2-minute spiel about what they're talking about as far as the private, you know, making the water private, privatizing?
Am I understanding, you know, regarding Councilmember Guillen's request, Adriana, that in your opinion, in reviewing the bill, there is no privatization?
That is correct. I did
And
not see
Are you
anything.
confident in that?
I am. I didn't see anything about privatization.
Hey, Madam Mayor, this is John Moreno, too. I have spoken with the Lakewood city manager who's been deeply involved with this as well, and he actually testified at the committee hearing yesterday. And he also brought that to my attention, and he mentioned that there is no privatization involved in SB 625.
Mayor Lemons,
Mayor Lemons, for myself, yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. Somebody's over talking here. Who am I hearing from? With permission to speak. I hear 2 people.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think, never mind, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Councilmember Guillen. Go ahead.
Councilmember Guillen that's speaking.
Okay, so just my point is that I would like to know for myself, not based on what somebody else's interpretation is or what somebody said, so-and-so said. I'd like to read something myself. So I'm just not comfortable making that judgment call right now without all the information that I can attest to myself. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Olmos, you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about the privatization because that's what we're hearing all over the place. I mean, that's why people are out picketing in front of people's houses because of that. So, and I'm going back to what Councilmember Guillen's saying. I think I read the bill too. I didn't notice it in there. So, Adriana, is there anything that you can give us that why they would think that? If it's not in the bill, if it's maybe is that just their understanding of it?
I don't know.
I don't know how to answer
I would
that either.
I would hate to speculate.
Sure.
I really don't know.
So this is where we're at. I'm personally ready to vote on this item. I did all my research, was requested to pay attention to the board meeting, watch the video, have years of experience and watching what's going on with the board. You're either prepared to vote or you're not. If you are prepared to vote, please make a motion and then you can vote yes or no on the motion.
Adriana, just for clarity, Madam Mayor, can you just tell us, Adriana, what you would like? What's the motion? Just for clarity as we vote, please.
To support the legislation for SB 625.
Let's see, this is.
So again, just for clarification, SB 625 was heard on the floor. So it's already been heard on the floor.
It
They
would-
have made a decision with an amendment. So you just want us to approve to continue supporting the bill?
No, the bill, I guess the motion would be to provide a support position for the bill. The bill still has quite a few committees ahead, one this week and potentially others in the Senate before it actually goes to the floor for a vote.
Vice Mayor Olmos, if I can interject, so what we would, if there's a consensus by the council to support SB 625, we would do the usual thing, which is to prepare a letter of support from the mayor to the bill's author, noting the city of Paramount's support for SB 625.
Thank you.
So at this point, I still need a motion whether or not you would like the letter to be sent. So yes, I move approval that we support SB 625, or no, I move that we do not support SB 625.
Mayor
This
Lemon?
is Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes,
And I
Councilmember.
make a motion to approve to provide support to legislation SB 625.
Okay, this is Councilmember Guillen. We were talking over each other, Aguayo, so just bear with me 1 second. Would it be impossible, since there are many steps before the legislation that it needs to go to before it gets to the floor to be voted on, that you give us a little more time and put it on the next agenda to vote on? I mean, is it something that needs to be done tonight?
Can you hold for just a moment, Councilmember Guillen? I need to get a ruling from the city attorney. It's my understanding that because I have a motion on the floor, I have to move forward with that before there's further discussion.
Yes, is it,
Okay, I think we
did
were
I hear,
talking over each other.
did I hear a second, Madam Mayor?
I haven't, no, we just have a motion right now, and then Councilmember Guillen interjected, so if I don't get a second, it would die for further discussion.
Correct.
But that's what I'm asking.
Correct.
I need to hold for a second first, correct?
Also, Madam Mayor, as the mayor, you also have the authority to make motions on these as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so let's deal with the motion on the floor first. So we have a motion by Aguayo. Just so everybody's clear, you can choose to second it or not to second it, and discussion can continue. That's your choice. Is there a second on the motion at this time? Okay.
Second.
Oh, so we have a motion from Aguayo to approve sending a letter of support for SB 625, and we have a second by Olmos. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
I'm going to abstain.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. Now, again, I like to defer to the city attorney. Is this item done? Do I need to do anything further because of the interruption?
No, Madam Mayor, the council just approved authorizing support of SB 625 and directing a letter from the mayor on behalf of the council to send that letter of support, which we will prepare for your signature.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll resolution number 20019, approving a temporary waiver of vacation accrual cap.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, thank you very much. COVID-19 also brought to us an additional in-house issue that was actually unanticipated. As part of the city's response to the pandemic, all vacation time for employees was suspended. So employees who had several hours of vacation time on the books, they've been unable to use these hours and actually have accumulated several more hours to where they're nearing the maximum allowable number of hours under their vacation time. We do have a solution for this, and with that, I'll turn it over to our Human Resources Manager, Mr. Jonathan Monsonot, who will handle the item. Jonathan?
Thank you, John. Good evening, City and Council. Before you is resolution number 2019, approving a temporary waiver of the vacation accrual limitation. Personnel Resolution 19027 authorizes the city to provide full-time employees vacation leave at a specified rate based on longevity. The number of hours accrued cannot exceed a balance of 240 hours. The purpose of this policy is to minimize the financial impact when employees separate, since vacation leave is paid out at 100% upon separation. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, staff has been instructed to postpone vacation leave as we are disaster service workers. Additionally, it's not really a safe time for our employees to travel. Currently, there are 18 employees who are either at or approaching 240 hours of accrued vacation leave. In an attempt to prevent our employees from being penalized by losing vacation time, we are proposing the council approve a temporary waiver on the vacation accrual maximum of 240 hours. This waiver would apply from May 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. All hours must be used by December 31st or will be lost. Additionally, hours accrued beyond the maximum cannot be cashed out, and thus there will be no financial impact since these are hours that would have otherwise been accrued. It is recommended that the City Council adopt Resolution 2019. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Do we have questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Gillen.
I would like to motion to read by title only and adopt Resolution 2019.
So I'm going to accept that as a second, Councilmember Cuellar Stallings. I have a motion by Gillen and a second by Cuellar Stallings. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen. Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move to item 15, an introduction of the fiscal year 2021 proposed budget.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight we're presenting to you an overview of our fiscal year 2020-21 budget. We'll have a more, as we do every year, we'll have a much more comprehensive look at the budget at our next council meeting on June the 16th. So at that June 16th meeting, each department head will cover their specific areas of the budget. We'll also seek your approval at that same meeting. Just a little bit about this year. This is no doubt an unprecedented time to be adopting a spending plan for any municipal government. And I got to say, Paramount is no different than any other city that I've spoken with. Karina will show you how we're ending this current year and then how we're planning for the next year that starts July 1st. So with that, I will turn it over to our Finance Director, Ms. Karina Lamlou, who will handle the item. Karina?
Thank you, John. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Can you hear me fine? Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for confirming. So tonight I am very pleased to present to you the fiscal year 2021's budget. As John mentioned, this is no doubt we are in an unprecedented time to adopt this budget.
We started off this budget preparation with a high level of momentum. The sales tax Measure Y, had been passed overwhelmingly by the voters, really signifying the trust and confidence our residents have in the city. Unfortunately, COVID-19 hit. By March 19, it became widely spread, and the statewide mandatory save-at-home order took effect. As you can imagine, this has taken a toll on our economy, as many businesses have since shut down or reduced service hours or service levels. Fortunately, our conservative and fiscally responsible spending habits, along with a healthy reserve, will help us weather this financial storm in the current year, and things are looking a little better in fiscal year 21. With that said, we want to confirm that our service levels remain the same. The budget continues to fund all essential city services, from law enforcement to recreation to street maintenance. And we'll continue our capital improvement projects, including a number of street improvement projects and the construction of a new water well. Don also mentioned that what we are doing tonight is an introduction to the budget in a summarized format. As we traditionally do, we'll review it at a much greater detail at a study session, and it is our goal to adopt the budget at the study session, so we have appropriation before the fiscal year begins in July. Keep in mind, doing a budget in the midst of an economic shutdown during a global pandemic raises a great deal of uncertainty. It is impossible for us to anticipate the depth of the economic shutdown caused by the pandemic. So what we have is a preliminary spending plan using a very conservative approach. We are planning to come back to adopt a more realistic budget in a few months, probably before mid-year. Usually I would start the presentation with charts and numbers. However, at this time, I'd like to talk about the negative impacts of the pandemic to revenues across the board and actions being taken in the last couple months. Next slide, please. Thank you. First is our sales tax. So we have been working closely with the industry experts, a company called HPL, to estimate the impact of reduction in sales tax in our community and also in the state. So statewide, decrease was about negative 7.5% for the first quarter and negative 36% for second quarter. In addition to expected drop in sales tax, the state implemented a couple programs. You may have heard in the news there are sales tax deferral and installment programs. What the programs provide is simply allowing businesses to delay making sales tax payments or making installments in 12 months. Now, honestly, it's too soon for us to get a handle on these two programs. But in the budget, we have always been conservative. So we assume those who qualify to take advantage of the deferral and installment programs in the current year, and a portion will come back to us in next fiscal year. So it's like a timing difference. Overall, sales tax is expected to decrease by $1.15 million in the current year, which is fiscal year 20, and also $549,000 next year when compared to fiscal year 19. Next slide, please. The negative impact to revenues is pretty widespread. There are ripple effects in many other categories, including the utility users tax. As account holders are now allowed to postpone making utility payments, this will impact utility users tax revenue as well. We expect a decrease of about 14% or $536,000 here. On licensing revenues, as many businesses are closed during the Saver at Home, we're seeing the slowdown of license renewal. A big drop in business license was related to the closure of the swap meet. So the total decrease about $589,000. In addition, animal license fees is expected to decrease as well. Next is real property transfer tax. Because of the slowdown, properties are not sold as much, and we anticipate a drop in revenue there too. Next slide. This is fee-based programs, expecting development to slow down, same as permits. Also, as facilities are closed and we are unable to provide classes or excursions, we're budgeting a decrease of recreation programs and also in facility rental. And in the last couple months, we have been issuing as many refunds as possible related to various cancellations. Next. As you're well aware, as residents are staying at home in the last couple months, no parking or administrative citations have been issued. We appropriated a decrease in this revenue as well. Next. General fund is not alone. Transportation revenues are tied to sales tax, and therefore we expect lower grant revenues in the upcoming year. Also, as fuel consumption is lower, it will also impact gas tax revenues. We are also watching the state deficit closely. It's currently in the magnitude of $54 billion. Initially, our motor vehicle license fees might be on the chopping block, but thanks to legislative protection, we were now told that this revenue stream is safe. However, there are talks about funding cuts to education, and this may impact our after-school program in the coming year. Next. So overall, in the current year, we anticipate an overall general fund decrease of $2.26 million. And for next year, we're anticipating an increase of $1.25 million. Now, why is there an increase next year? Next slide. The answer is Measure Y. Next fiscal year 21, the new sales tax rate will be operative on July 1st. This will bring in additional $4.2 million. The additional revenue stream cannot have come more timely. This will help offset the loss of overall general fund revenues because of the pandemic. Next. So what have we done so far to mitigate the fiscal position? Well, we have frozen all recruitment, and we have frozen all non-essential spending. During this budget process, we have also negotiated flat contract renewals if possible. Keep in mind, last year's consumer price index increase was at 3.36%. Normally, there are a few areas we could consider a CPI increase, but we are not recommending that. Just to name a few, we could consider an increase for business license, animal license, water rate, or swap meet, but we're not considering that. Next slide. So next, we're going to look at some revenue charts. Next. In fiscal year 20, when all city revenue sources combined, including the general fund, the water, utility, and restricted funds, total city revenues is at $44 million. The decrease in current year fiscal year 20 is related to the drop in general fund revenues, which we discussed earlier. Next year, fiscal year 21, total city revenues increased to $52.7 million. The increase is mainly contributed by repayment of tax, Measure Y, and a number of grant funds for special projects. This is similar to fiscal year 13, where we have gotten a lot of state grants for the construction of the Salute Park. Next. Now, this is the same chart we saw earlier. What we do here, we added the general fund component, which is in light blue color. As you can see, when comparing current year to next, we are budgeting an increase in general fund, approximately $3.5 million increase to a total of $29 million. Again, the increase was related to Measure Y. On restricted fund category, we budget about $23.7 million in fiscal year 21. This is about $5 million increase when compared to this year. What made up the $5 million are from various grants, including a $3.3 million grant for bike trail, $700,000 Measure A grant for parks and open space, $700,000 SPTL grant for street projects, and $500,000 Measure W revenues that was postponed from current year to next. I also want to point out there's a $6.7 million source that is not included in the revenue here. It's because it's a loan that we secured through the iBank for the construction of the new well, and because it's not classified as revenue, it's not showing here, but we do have the funding for the expenditure. Next. Earlier, we inserted general fund in the overall revenue. Here, we added sales tax into general fund in brown. Overall, sales tax will be at $7.9 million next year. And overall, general fund projection is at $29 million. As you can see, sales tax makes up about 27% of total unrestricted. The increase in sales tax in fiscal year 21 reflects slight improvement in the economy, repayment of sales tax deferral and installments from the current year as well. Next. Earlier, we inserted general fund into overall revenues. Here, we added Measure Y in lighter brown. While sales tax is expected to be at $7.9 million next year, Measure Y will bring in $4.2 million. Measure Y is truly our saving grace for fiscal year 21. It offsets decrease in many areas in the general fund when compared to fiscal year 20. Now, if you subtract $4.2 million Measure Y and $7.9 million sales tax from the total $29 million, the rest of the $17 million in the blue bar actually represents non-sales tax portion of the general fund. That may include motor vehicle license fees, property tax, permits, licenses, etc. Next. So we talk about sales tax next year at $7.9 million. This is a history since fiscal year 08. So just for comparison's sake, fiscal year 21 is $27.9 million, is not far from the pre-recession level in fiscal year 08. Wanted to point out that it's possible we'll go into a recession after COVID-19, and so the number may drop. Next. As part of the budget review, we'll look at utility users tax as a follow-up to Measure P. Since Measure P was passed in 2015, we have been receiving higher amounts of utility users tax. At the same time, we have experienced UUC refund or exemption requests, so there has been some decreases since. Next year, we are budgeting $3.2 million. Part of the decrease is related to COVID-19. Next. Utility users tax is still a significant source to continue paying for essential services, especially after we lost $5 to $6 million revenues a year as a result of the elimination of our redevelopment agency. Annually, we perform utility users tax analysis and making sure that providers are submitting the correct percentage to the city. Next. Once again, we're not proposing any fee increase, while the consumer price index increase last year was at 3.36%. Next. We're done with revenue, so we'll cover expenditures. Next. The brown bar represents our operations, and the blue bar represents capital improvement projects. In our operations, if you recall, for the current year in fiscal year 20, we had our first structural deficits as expenditures outpaced revenues. In fiscal year 20, current year, operational cost increase included contract rate increases from the sheriff, from landscape maintenance, from road maintenance, animal control, crossing guards, etc. Also in the current year, the cost increase, our salaries, included our salaries and benefits increase, and cost of living adjustments for full-time employees. Next year, other than a few contract increases, we pretty much, each department has held our line in our operations. In addition to that, we have added 2 frozen positions, full-time positions, and now we have 3 frozen positions total in fiscal year 21. As for capital improvements, we are budgeting over $18 million, about $7 million for the construction of the well, also included a grant-funded projects such as street improvements, bike trail, park and facility improvements, including the improvements at Paramount Pool. Next. This chart shows how expenditures are distributed among our operating departments. Our operating department, not include water utility, is about $36.5 million. As you can see, among the operating departments, public safety has the largest expenditures. We're allocating 36% of our resources to public safety. Next. With regard to community promotion, the budget contains funding for all city signature special events and continued funding for 15 community groups in fiscal year 21. The funding amount is based on a matrix formula, including the number of Paramount residents being served. More detail will be presented to you by David Johnson at the study session. But I do want to point out that funding for the current year's 3 youth groups, normally they get $10,000, but because of the cancellation of the spring season, the funding will be carried over next fiscal year, in fiscal year 21. So we are proposing $15,000 for each group. Also, we're proposing a $15,000 scholarship fund for them as well. And once again, in study session, we'll go over in greater detail. Next. In human resources arena for full-time, we're proposing no cost of living adjustment or benefit change at this time. In fiscal year 20, current year, a recreation specialist position has been frozen and will continue to be frozen next year. And in addition to that, we are freezing 2 additional full-time positions in fiscal year 21. For part-time, some adjustments will be made to comply with the California minimum wage law. Minimum wage in 2021 in California will be at $14 per hour. Next. In public safety, this is our largest single department. In fiscal year 21, we have budgeted $13 million for the department, which includes 5.57% increase in contract for the sheriff's contract and a funding for the liability trust fund. Other than the sheriff's contract increase, included in the budget are contract increases for crossing guards and animal control. The department will maintain neighborhood watch and neighborhood preservation efforts. Next. In recreation, current level of services will be maintained next year, including the STAR After School program. Also, the budget continues the support for PAP, the non-profit organization the city has established for scholarship purposes. Events that have been established will continue, such as the Heritage Festival and Veterans events. We shall see how the pandemic unfolds in the next few months, but currently those events are in the budget. As always, Recreation Department will continue to maintain and improve our parks and facilities. Next, please. And in planning, we will continue the current level of service, including permits, zoning, plan check, etc. They will continue the signature residential and commercial rehab projects. Included in fiscal year 21's budget is the development of 2 specific plan documents. These specific plans will replace the traditional zoning regulations in certain areas and carefully guide land use, infrastructure improvements, and sustainable living. Next. As in public works, this is a big department we have. They handle maintenance of all facilities, landscape, vehicles, and even roads. The budget keeps the same level of service next year. In addition, there's appropriation for environmental compliance, such as stormwater compliance. Next. In water utility, we mentioned about the new water well construction earlier. This also comes with a debt service to pay back the loan in the budget. Also in the budget continues the funding for installation of services and hydrants and water valves at various locations. Next. In terms of our water rates, as you know, we continue to maintain some of the lowest rates in the region. We're always sensitive to what we charge to the water customers. As you know, the last rate increase took effect in 2016. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we will not be considering a rate increase now. Production costs, however, do increase from year to year. Groundwater costs increase by 4.7% this next year, and imported water will increase by 2.26%. Next. So water fund in fiscal year 21, we are posting a $1.66 million deficit in the water fund, which was really mainly created because of the construction of the new well. Also because of new debt service, we need to start paying back the loan, and compounded with the pandemic with lower water payments, this created this deficit. Fortunately, we've been very conservative, and we have sufficient reserve to absorb this deficit. Next. I'd like to switch gear right now to look at some physical improvements. As always, we have a number of capital improvement projects. We are budgeting more than $18 million for projects in fiscal year 21. Of that, $7 million for water, over $10 million for street projects, over $1 million for park projects. We also have $171,000 for miscellaneous projects such as neighborhood improvement. The bulk of the $7 million in water is related to the construction of a well. As for streets, a number of projects were funded by various grants. And for parks, we have successfully obtained a Measure A grant for park projects. Next. Next is a screenshot of a list of projects we have in capital improvement projects, from water well to streets to bus stop shelters and various park and facility improvements. Next. In summary, for the general fund, because of a significant decrease in revenues, we are budgeting a deficit to the tune of $1.47 million in the current year. We are fortunate that we have saved up reserves to absorb this loss. Also, in addition to the general fund reserve, we have other reserves saved up. We are using $674,000 capital improvement project reserve to pay for capital projects. Also, as we close our last year's book, if you recall, we earmarked funding for additional PERS payment to pay down the unfunded liabilities, so this budget reflects that too. And keep in mind that our conservative approach has paid off, as we have always spent within our means. So now we have the rainy day funds to balance the budget. This is indeed an extraordinary condition. We normally would not recommend using reserve, but we feel that this is the time to use the reserve to balance the budget for fiscal year 20. As for fiscal year 21, thanks to Measure Y, the additional revenue will be enough to offset the loss of general fund revenues, and with the help of all the departments, we have tightened up our belts, and at this time, we're proposing a $256,000 surplus for fiscal year 21. Next. So if we put the deficit and the surplus this year and next year into a chart, and you can see in a history of Paramount that since fiscal year 10, we really rarely have used our reserve. In fiscal year 2010, the reason why we used the reserve was because of a one-time payment we paid to JPIA for insurance reasons. Otherwise, we really have rarely used a reserve, and you can see that clearly on this chart. And we hope that in a few months, we'll fine-tune the numbers, and then we'll have better numbers to show you. Next. If we fast forward, next slide. When we factor in the surplus or deficits, the chart here shows you fiscal year 21's ending balances for different types of funds. This balance that we saved up for rainy days should the economy take a downturn like the pandemic in the current year. In the general fund, we'll end fiscal year 21 with about $11.6 million. Restricted funds will have a balance of approximately $9.4 million and about $3 million left for water fund. Next slide. Next is our successor agency. Next slide. The successor agency will continue to wind down the business of the former redevelopment agency. The budget reflects the enforceable obligations on our ROF and the tax increment we expect to receive to be able to pay those enforceable obligations. Next is our housing authority. Next slide. The budget is holdover of a former redevelopment agency's low and moderate housing fund, which we have received very limited way to use the funding. Fiscal year 21, a housing project has been budgeted using the housing fund. Next. This concludes my presentation. It's recommended the City Council establish June 16th as study session further review budget. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions regarding the proposed budget? Okay, thank you for that report, Karina. We're going to move to the appointment, or the mayor's appointment. And do you have to read anything, John, or can I just make the announcement?
You could just go ahead and make the announcement, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so Council Member Olmos, or Vice Mayor Olmos, will be taken off the COG, and she'll be replaced by Cuellar Stallings, and Aguayo will remain the alternate. And that was due to a conflict by Vice Mayor Olmos with another committee she serves on, so she was unable to continue serving on the COG. And with that, we'll move into comments and committee reports from council members. And let's start with Cuellar Stallings.
Okay. Well, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I have a couple to say. On Sunday afternoon, members of our community came together to protest the change and George Floyd. Thank you for voicing your beliefs with a peaceful. Also, thank you to the community members for taking action and supporting the curfew hours, which was taking effect in our city. Anyway,
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings, if you could just hold up for a minute. We're only hearing like every other word of what you have to say. If she's at City Hall, is there something technically going on, or some assistance that could be given, or direction?
Madam Mayor, she's not at City Hall. She's at her home.
Okay. So,
you want me to start again, Peggy?
Yeah, please, you're clear at this moment, so let's give it another.
Okay. On Sunday afternoon, members of our community came together to protest for the change regarding the death of George Floyd. Thank you for voicing your beliefs with a peaceful protest. Also, thank you for the community members for taking action and supporting the curfew hours, which have been taking effect in our city. Be safe, and remember, we are paramount. God bless.
Thank you, Councilmember Cuellar Stallings. We'll move to Councilmember Guillen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well, as you know, I was absent on our last city council meeting. The following Wednesday, we laid to rest my Aunt Mary Gillen, who many of the community members knew and adored. She was laid to rest last Wednesday at All Souls Cemetery. So I just want to thank everybody for their emails, their notes, and the phone calls. That really meant a lot. Mary was more than just an aunt to me. She probably was like a mother, sister, just always there, and I'm going to miss her at my council meetings for sure. So I'm thank you for acknowledging my absence, and I just wanted to put that out there. And then as talk about unprecedented times, no words can quite capture what we are going through locally and nationally. During these unsettling times, I just want to reach out to all the residents of Paramount with comforting words and say that we really are all in this together. Let's stay focused on what's ahead, learning through this process, both COVID and our protests, that we are only as strong as our weakest links. And now more than ever, we need to lift each other up. Please continue to reach out to me with your concerns, both good and bad. And thank you for being Paramount Strong.
Thank you, Councilmember Guillen. Member Aguayo?
Yeah, good evening, Paramount residents. Really, both, my colleagues have really stated, the sentiment here, myself and my family. You know, it's so sad to see really the United States, you know, in such pain with everything that is just, you know, going on. It feels like what's next. But instead of the what's next, really for me, this hits really close to home on both sides. You know, we know Black Lives Matter because we are family, and we also know that not all officers are bad. In fact, most are really great. I also know this because we are family. Kudos to our public safety department and the sheriffs. A number of the kids really that were out there, you know, protesting, the young adults. Some actually, you know, kids my daughter knows, they actually said that some of the officers talked to them and, you know, comforted them, you know, saying that they were there really to protect them. And, you know, they were really, the outlook that they have is just so positive. And, you know, to everyone that did go out and, you know, showed, you know, what they stand for, thank you. Thank you for showing up and showing everyone around that there can be a peaceful protest. You know, they definitely made me proud. And, you know, that's what Paramount is. You know, that's who we are. That's, you know, we rise to the occasions. And it really was a great feeling to see that, you know, and hear all of that. So that's it. Continue to stay safe. God bless everyone. And, you know, I mean, we are Paramount.
Thank you, Councilmember Aguayo. Vice Mayor Olmos.
Thank you, Mayor Lemons. I just really wanted to reiterate the recognition that we gave out tonight to the healthcare workers in Paramount. For many of the residents, you all know that these physicians have really been serving our community for over 30 years, probably longer. And during this COVID time, you know, a lot of them went through a lot of difficult times of trying to figure out new ways of taking care of their patients. So they had to change a lot of operations in their clinics, but none of them ever closed. They stayed open, and they continued to service our residents. So we're very lucky to have these physicians servicing us in Paramount. I do want to say congratulations to all the students that were recognized tonight, and as well as the class of 2020. Congratulations. In closing, to the residents, I know we're going through a lot, like Councilor Nguyen said and the others said, but what I've seen in the last couple of months is that a lot of people have come together to help and support one another. And that's the best gift that you could ever imagine. I know we still have a lot of work to do, but again, kudos to our social media team. I think they've been doing a fantastic job of getting all the updates out there. We're getting curfew or what was happening in the city. So kudos to our social media team. And I look forward that we're actually going back to our committee meetings. I have my first Contract City Executive Board meeting on Thursday. But I'm excited that we're going back and bringing some knowledge back to the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Olmos. I just have to say to the social media team, if you're getting kudos from Vice Mayor Olmos, you know you're doing a great job when it comes.
That's right.
You're very critical of that. I have a couple of committee reports. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. The first one is sanitation. To let you know, all their facilities are operational. The Puente Hills Recycling Recovery is now open again and operational. And the test results of the wastewater as of May was consistent with what it had been for the coronavirus. So they're not seeing any decline there yet in the wastewater. Also, beginning in July, they will start to do the rebates for the low water usage for residential and commercial customers, and that would be for those who reduced below the baseline usage. And again, you would need your water bills from June to July to apply for those rebates. And the center themselves, they reported that they did have 4 positive cases for coronavirus at the sanitation district. 2 of those employees are completely recovered, and 2 are in recovery. As to SIACA, the animal care, the adoption, and animal care services are both open with an appointment. And services for vaccinations and licenses are going to resume with a soft opening June 2nd, so I guess that would be happening now, and they had no COVID cases at Siaka. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Senator Gonzalez and Assemblyman Rendon for their attention and their involvement in helping us with the churches responsibly reopening. We were in contact with them, and they walked hand in hand with us all the way until that came through. I also want to thank Supervisor Hahn for moving forward with the variance that allowed for the responsible opening of our retail, our restaurants, our beauty shops, and barber shops. Also, I've been speaking with Paramount businesses, and one of them, Weber Metals, wanted me to thank Congresswoman Roy Ball Allard for her help in getting stimulus funds for their business. They've been particularly hard hit. They had a major layoff before COVID, and they've had to do furloughs since then. On the bright side, they've had 0 COVID cases reported at their company. And then I'd also like to thank the staff and the council members who've been so actively participating in the drive-through food banks. I know that's a lot of hard work. I've only done one myself. I know that some of you have done multiple, giving up your day and your weekends and working so hard. Thank you so much for representing Paramount so well. It is deeply appreciated. And then lastly, I would just like to say, that we are definitely in a really emotional time and a time for introspection. And I recently had a conversation following the protest in Paramount with one of our commissioners, who is an African-American gentleman, Tony Warfield. He was present for the protest. He said that he specifically went there because, of course, being a Black man, this has hit him particularly hard. He knows what's at stake. He knows the attention that needs to be brought to this issue. But he wanted to be there to urge calm and a peaceful protest. So I want to thank him for being there and representing the city so well and helping to make that happen. And God bless our city and our churches for praying for us, and everybody for keeping a reasonable mind and prayerful thoughts and helping us all to get through this time. And with that, I will go to any staff reports.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. I just wanted to echo some of the thanks that I heard from the council right now. Echoing thanks to the recreation staff for the food distribution events, the 2 that they were involved with this past month, and as well as the public works and public safety staff who helped out with the traffic control and barricades. Those 2 events were very successful. And also thank you to Paramount Swap Meet for allowing us to use their parking lot for both of those events. I was really impressed on Sunday when I came in and saw the amount of Sheriff's Department deputies that were at the station here in Paramount to help us with the potential for civil unrest. And thankfully, it didn't get as bad as other communities did. As was said, there were peaceful demonstrations, which we all want to see on Sunday afternoon. But definitely thank you to them. Thank you to our public works staff who worked until 1:30 a.m. on Saturday night to board up the station, as well as Adriana Lopez, who coordinated everything with Sergeant Sanchez and with our public works department. It truly shows the importance of the partnership that we as the city of Paramount have with the LASD. Andrew Villalpano, who's only been with us for 4 months, also want to thank him for stepping up and coming in on Sunday and staying here for the whole day. Just a couple of COVID-19 related notes. The business recovery team met last week, and we submitted the plans, the business recovery plan to them, which I did put in all your Friday memo. So if you have any questions on that or any suggestions, please let me know. This is definitely a moving, breathing document that will change based on what we're hearing. So, but I think we're heading in the right direction when it comes to helping our our businesses recover. And lastly, Madam Mayor, we are, as I mentioned to you, we are going to be opening City Hall and the City Yard to the public starting June the 15th. So the office staff will start to report back to work full-time starting next week. And we will be prepared to serve the public when we're all back at work. So with that, that concludes comments from staff.
Thank you, John, and I think we all agree that we're truly blessed to have such a highly qualified, responsible staff. Thank each and every one of you for your positions, your individual duties, the professionalism and dedication that you've shown to our community. We could not be more appreciative. With that, I'd like to adjourn this meeting in name and memory of Mary Gillen to our next meeting on June 16th, 2020 at 5 p.m. At this time, I would like to open the successor agency for the Paramount Redevelopment Agency. And we'll have a roll call of council members, please.
Councilmember Aguayo.
Here.
Councilmember Guillen.
Here.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Here.
Vice Mayor Olmos. Vice Mayor Olmos. Did we lose you, Vice Mayor Olmos? Mayor Lemons.
Here. Give me just 1 second.
We're trying to contact Vice Mayor Olmos at the moment as well.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 1-minute pause just to see if it's a technical problem.
I'm here.
Okay. So with that, we'll go to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
So moved, almost.
Second, Stallings, Cuellar.
Moved by almost, seconded by Cuellar Stallings. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. Karina, is there any further you need to share with us on the budget?
No, Madam Mayor. We already handled that.
Okay, so we'll adjourn till the June 16, 2020, 5 p.m.
Our communities. The 2020 census will help inform decisions on.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Heidi, for a roll call.
Thank you. Commissioner Aguayo.
Here.
Commissioner Lemons.
Here.
Commissioner Olmos.
Here.
Vice Chair Cuellar Stallings.
Here.
Chair Guillen.
Here. Any public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay, approval of minutes?
So moved. Lemon.
Second, Aguayo.
Commissioner, would you like a roll call, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Aguayo.
Yes.
Commissioner Lemons.
Yes.
Commissioner Olmos.
Yes.
Vice Chair Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Chair Guillen.
Yes. Now, item 2 says report for introduction of fiscal year 2021 proposed budget, but did we already hear that?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Okay, any comments? Staff or commissioners?
No, ma'am.
Okay, adjourn this meeting. I can't hear, so I'm guessing you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night.